A packed theatre, music swells, a wedding feast for the king's daughter. The most powerful man in Greece walks proudly before thousands, his crown glinting under the torchlight. And then, flash of steel, a dagger plunges, gasps echo. The king collapses on the stone steps, crimson spreading across his royal purple robe. This wasn't just a death, it was the shattering of a dream. The greatest military genius of his age, killed at the moment of his triumph. Rewind. How did this man, born the overlooked son of a minor king, rise to dominate Greece, terrify Persia, and then fall in a single moment of betrayal? 359 BCE. Macedonia wasn't a superpower, it was the punchline of Greece. Athenians sneered at Macedonians as barely Greek, semi-barbarians with a rough dialect and rougher manners. Macedonian nobles squabbled like feuding hill clans, more interested in their own power than the kingdom's survival. The army, broken. King Perdiccas III had just been annihilated by Illyrian tribes, leaving 4,000 Macedonian soldiers dead on the battlefield and the throne sitting empty. 5 rivals claimed the crown, while enemies circled like vultures. Illyrians from the west, Paeonians from the north, Thracians from the east, and Athens eyeing the coast. This was no kingdom ready to conquer, this was a kingdom ready to collapse, and into that chaos walked Philip II, 23 years old, underestimated by everyone, and carrying the most dangerous weapon of all, revolutionary ideas. Years earlier, Philip had been sent to Thebes as a political hostage, insurance his father wouldn't cause trouble. Most royal hostages spent their captivity sulking in resentment. Philip spent his studying warfare. He lived in the household of Epaminondas, the brilliant general who had shattered Spartan military dominance at the Battle of Leuctra. For 3 years, Philip absorbed everything. The oblique battle line that concentrated force at a single point. The integration of cavalry with infantry in ways no Greek army had mastered. How discipline and innovation, not heroic bravado, wins wars. He wasn't just a prisoner, he was an apprentice to the most innovative military mind in Greece. And when he returned to Macedonia, he brought back blueprints for revolution. Philip didn't just seize the throne, he rebuilt Macedonia from the ground up, transforming a fragmented tribal kingdom into history's most efficient war machine. The Macedonian phalanx, armed with 18-foot sarissas, spears so long they looked absurd until you were facing a forest of them. The front ranks created a wall of spear points extending 15 feet ahead of the formation. No enemy could get close enough to strike. Combined arms warfare, the phalanx pinned enemies in place like an anvil. Cavalry, led by Philip himself or his teenage son Alexander, hammered into flanks like a sledgehammer. Archers and skirmishers harassed from range, while specialized siege engineers broke down city walls. No Greek army had ever seen this kind of coordination. Professional army. Unlike Greek city-states that relied on citizen soldiers who farmed most of the year, Philip paid his soldiers year-round, drilled them relentlessly, and forged unbreakable unit cohesion through constant campaign. They weren't fighting for their city, they were fighting for Philip. Economic engine? By seizing the gold mines of Mount Pangaean, Philip turned a broke kingdom into a war economy overnight. Annual income, over 1,000 talents, equivalent to billions in today's money. Enough to fund endless war, bribe enemy politicians, and still overflow the royal treasury. In less than 5 years, Macedonia went from broken backwater to unstoppable juggernaut. At the siege of Methone in 354 BCE, Philip took an arrow to the face. He lost his right eye completely, permanently scarred and disfigured. Did he hide this disfigurement? No, he flaunted it. The one-eyed king became a living banner of Macedonian toughness. While Athenian politicians debated in comfortable assembly halls, Philip bled with his men on the battlefield. His soldiers followed him not just out of fear, but out of genuine devotion. This physical transformation coincided with Philip's emergence as the dominant power in northern Greece. Through a combination of military victories, strategic marriages, and well-placed bribes, Philip expanded Macedonia's influence year by year. His approach was brutally effective. Where resistance was fierce, he would destroy cities completely. Where surrender came quickly, he showed surprising mercy. This carrot-and-stick approach accelerated his conquests. As many cities chose submission over annihilation, Philip's real genius wasn't only on the battlefield, it was in politics, where he manipulated the divided Greek city-states like a master puppeteer. 7 marriages, each one a treaty in human form, ancient speed dating with geopolitical consequences. While Greek states signed papers, Philip forged family bonds with potential enemies, neutralizing threats through the bedroom as effectively as the battlefield. Bribery as foreign policy. Athenian politicians openly joked about Philip's fund because so many of their colleagues were on his payroll. When Athens debated opposing him, gold mysteriously appeared in key pockets and opposition melted away. Religion as power play. When Phocis raided Delphi's sacred treasury, Philip positioned himself as Apollo's defender, marching into central Greece not as a conqueror, but as the god's champion. This religious pretext gave him control of the Amphictyonic League, a religious organization that gave him legitimate influence throughout Greece. Athens's great orator Demosthenes raged in his famous Philippics, warning that the barbarian from the north would enslave all of Greece. His countrymen, too busy arguing about naval budgets and theater subsidies to unite against the real threat. Philip wasn't just winning wars, he was winning minds, one bribe, marriage, and religious posture at a time. 338 BCE, the endgame. Athens and Thebes, longtime enemies, finally united to stop the Macedonian juggernaut, their pride and hope. The legendary Sacred Band of Thebes, 300 elite warriors who had never been defeated in battle. Philip commanded the Macedonian right wing. His 18-year-old son, Alexander, led the elite companion cavalry on the left. What followed was a tactical masterpiece. Philip ordered his troops to feign retreat, deliberately pulling back to lure the Athenians out of their careful formation. As they pushed forward, sensing victory, Philip suddenly ordered a counterattack. At the same moment, Alexander led a devastating cavalry charge that smashed into the Theban flank. The Sacred Band fought to the last man. All 300 were killed where they stood, their bodies found in perfect formation. Greek independence died with them on that August afternoon. In a single day, Philip had ended 2 centuries of Greek autonomy. Philip could have destroyed Athens and Thebes after his victory. Instead, he demonstrated the calculated mercy of a master strategist. He imposed a Macedonian garrison on Thebes, but left Athens physically untouched, though he required them to dissolve their navy and join his new Hellenic League, also called the League of Corinth. This league, formed in 337 BCE, united the Greek city-states under Macedonian leadership. Officially, it was an alliance of equals working toward common goals. Realistically, Greece was united, but united on a leash held firmly in Philip's hand. And with Greece secured, Philip announced his greatest plan yet, a massive invasion of the Persian Empire, officially to avenge old Greek defeats and liberate Greek cities in Asia Minor. Realistically, to seize the richest empire in the world. The advance force had already crossed into Asia Minor under his generals Parmenion and Attalus. The main army, led by Philip himself, would follow in 336 BCE. But Philip never saw Persian soil. In the summer of 336 BCE, at his daughter Cleopatra's wedding to Alexander of Epirus, Philip entered the theatre at Aigai in a dramatic procession. Deliberately dismissing his bodyguards to show trust in his Greek allies, he walked alone into the packed theatre. As he entered, a former bodyguard named Pausanias rushed forward and drove a Celtic dagger into his chest. Before the assassin could reach his getaway horses, he tripped on a vine root and was killed by pursuing guards. Theories about the assassination exploded immediately. A personal vendetta against Philip's general Attalus, who had grievously wronged Pausanias. A plot by his wife Olympias, mother of Alexander, angry at being displaced by a younger queen. Even whispers that Alexander himself knew more than he admitted, fearing his father would produce a new heir with his young wife Cleopatra Eurydice. We'll never know the full truth. What we do know is this: the man who built the perfect war machine collapsed in a pool of blood before his empire could march east. Philip's death could have ended Macedonia's rise. Instead, it launched something greater. His 20-year-old son Alexander inherited a battle-hardened professional army of 32,000 infantry and 3,000 cavalry, the most advanced fighting force in the world. A treasury containing 800 talents of silver, enough to fund years of campaigning. The unified Greek states of the Hellenic League pledged to support the Persian campaign, a network of alliances securing Macedonia's European borders. Advanced siege technology capable of taking walled cities that had previously been impregnable. Without Philip, there is no Alexander the Great. Period. The son's conquests were built entirely on the father's foundations. Philip's innovations transformed warfare for centuries to come. His military system was adopted by the Hellenistic kingdoms that succeeded Alexander's empire. Even the rising power of Rome would incorporate elements of Philip's tactical approach. Beyond military matters, Philip transformed Macedonia itself from a tribal kingdom into a centralized state with a developed economy, administrative systems, and diplomatic corps. He built roads, founded cities, and integrated the previously excluded Macedonian highlands into the kingdom. Philip's story isn't just ancient history, it's a blueprint for how outsiders rise to power. The underestimated barbarian from the periphery, the innovator who emerges from the margins, the leader who fuses old ideas into something revolutionary and unstoppable. He shows us that genius often lies in integration rather than invention. Philip didn't create entirely new military units. He combined existing elements in revolutionary ways. He didn't invent diplomacy, but he practiced it with a skill that turned enemies into allies. But his story is also a warning. Even the most powerful empire builders can fall, not to enemies abroad, but to betrayal at home. A single dagger can end the grandest dreams. Perhaps most importantly, Philip shows that the foundations of greatness matter as much as the visible achievements. Alexander's conquests dazzle us with their speed and scope, but they were only possible because Philip had spent decades building the systems, training the army, and establishing the alliances that made those conquests possible. So, was Philip the real great, with Alexander just the inheritor of his father's genius? Or was he destined to be remembered as the shadow behind his son's glory? And what other supporting characters in history deserve more credit for making famous achievements possible? Drop your thoughts below, because history isn't finished. It's still being written, one conversation at a time.